It all started as nothing more than a hobby horse. I decided one day to start a YouTube channel to talk about the COVID-19 pandemic and share with you some of my thoughts. Then the idea developed, and I included in this YouTube channel not only COVID-19 and the pandemic, but also comments, reflections, analyses on the Middle East, North Africa, and Gulf regions. And last but not least, after the war between Azerbaijanis and Armenians, I started talking about the conflicts in the Southern Caucasus, over the enclave of Nagorno-Karabakh, and about principles of conflict resolution, both in legal and political terms. But it's tiring. Even a hobby horse can become tiring after almost 1 year. But I still struggle on. I hope you're not feeling tired too, and that every now and then you'll click on the link that I share with you on YouTube and on Twitter, and listen to some ideas, some thoughts that I have as an ordinary citizen, an ordinary human being, observing what's happening around him, looking right, looking left, and then sharing some thoughts with you. So on that note, tired but hopeful, let me welcome you to Arm Wrestling with COVID-19 in London, and this is number 48. Now, we've already been through step 1. Outdoor meetings and schools have returned. We've also implemented step 2, which consisted of hairdressers and gyms, amongst others, being allowed to open and work again. And now we are at the threshold of step 3, which includes indoor pub visits, and somehow most of the outdoor restrictions would go. And then the big leap, of course, a leap of hope, but also a practical leap, I suppose, for millions of people across our 4 nations, is when social restrictions would be removed and nightclubs even could come back. But hold on. All this is great. You'd think this is basically a textbook implementation with care, caution, and precision. But a virus doesn't understand precision. A virus is a cunning foe, tries to outfox you, tries to outdo you. And whilst we were just becoming a little bit hopeful, optimistic, some would say a tad too optimistic when we looked around us, not necessarily only in Europe, but across India and other parts of the world, suddenly a new variant kicks in, the Indian variant. Now we watched, we read, we heard about the ravages sustained by so many people in India as a result of the second wave that they were sustaining. We thought we're pretty much insulated from it. After all, hardly anybody travels these days except if it's very necessary. People are still somehow careful, and I suppose the older you are, the more careful you become. We thought that we'd be able to avoid, to shun this new variant. But no, remember, we did export our own Kent variant, which caused a lot of pain and a lot of ravage to a lot of countries within Europe and elsewhere. So now it seems, according to the Department of Health and Social Care, that the Indian variant is also now on the rise, particularly in the northwest of England and in some boroughs in London. In fact, if I understand correctly, the highest rise is in Bolton in Greater Manchester, as well as in places like Blackburn in Lancashire and Sefton in Merseyside. They are showing a very rapid rise of this variant. Now, you do remember a few days ago, our Prime Minister said that there will be a public inquiry to scrutinize and examine the way that our country, our authorities, our ministers dealt with the COVID-19 pandemic since the first initial dates, which go back well over a year now. Yes, but hold on. You and I, we know what public inquiries are, no matter all the good intentions. And remember, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. All the good intentions will probably drag on, not for days, not for weeks, not for months, but for years before we know what the outcome of that public inquiry and its recommendations are. And by that time, I don't know what will have happened. Many things could have happened or none. So in a sense, whilst I'm surprised that it will be in spring when we start this public inquiry, it seems we're too busy now to start it. I am not holding my breath, because if I were, I'd die way before that public inquiry comes out. So if that is the case, and if we're scrutinizing what we're doing, then shouldn't we also be cautious about this Indian variant? Shouldn't we also consider what does that mean in terms of our own well-being and safety in this country? How we deal with this variant that's on the rise, and also how we then export it as well? Just food for thought. We're all fed up. You're fed up. I'm fed up. I'm so fed up. My nerves are frayed. I'm tired. I just started by telling you I'm tired of this hobby horse of mine, the YouTube episode. So imagine how I'm psychologically feeling now, 14, 15 months into a rigorous implementation of all sorts of prescriptions and regulations and restrictions. But I suppose all the things I deprive myself of, from travel to restaurants to other, I think it's worth it when I think that the alternative is our NHS hospitals being swamped again, and worse, us dying, many of us dying. So let us not repeat the mistakes of the past, which supposedly the public inquiry would look into, which is shilly-shallying, dilly-dallying, shuffling our feet, doing something late rather than doing it when we need to do it. And let us very much be prompt and keep the Indian variant in our sights as we decide. And I'm not talking about you and I deciding. We're mere subjects in this whole matter. It's the government, the scientists, the ministers, the departments that decide. Let us not do something in haste and then regret at our leisure. And whilst I'm at it, and given that there is so much excitement, understandable excitement, palpable excitement, I was at my travel agents the other day asking about the travel insurances that they offer and whether I'd be able to travel out and where could I go out between green, amber, and red. As we're all getting ready to go to, I don't know, Portugal, to Iceland, to wherever else, I hope, I really hope, that we stop being a third world country when it comes to our airports, and we try to implement some order. I've heard so many reports. I've read so much about Heathrow, for instance, our biggest and flagship of an airport, shortage of personnel, people coming in, waiting for 4-6 hours before their papers are processed and before they know where they need to go, what they need to do, whether they're allowed to go home, whether they're allowed to self-isolate in their own premises, or whether they've got to go and pay over 1,700 pounds, sorry, for the isolation. Come on. Why? Apparently we have a shortage of personnel. It's not a nuclear science to sort that one out. It seems we're going to put e-gates now back on. Yes, and then tomorrow we'll hear from a minister coming on the Today program on BBC Radio 4 in the morning and saying, oh, there is a technical glitch, there is a computer glitch, it doesn't work because the data has changed since we left the EU in our moment of Brexit. Can't we do that? People have said that it's not only 4, 5, 6 hours of waiting until you can be processed and leave the airport and go wherever you're heading to, but apparently it's pandemonium. No physical distancing. Not everybody is wearing face masks. Come on, physician, heal thyself. Set the example rather than preach at us at press conferences and when ministers are being interviewed. Do I sound tired? Yes, I sound tired and I sound flustered, and I'll go further and say even frustrated. So these are just some of my thoughts. No more, no less. You can probably encapsulate them, compress them in a zip file of 2-3 sentences. Never mind. Having said that, and having had my weekend rant, it's not really a rant, to be honest with you. Let me not keep putting myself down too much. It's a thought, anger, frustration, hope, disappointment, unanticipated futures. Let's hope, again, that things will get better. And in so doing, I can only wish you, even though it's the weather isn't that nice across the whole UK, let me wish you a pleasant weekend. Take care and all the best.